So I think we should start and focus on basically the beginning. He says that eudaimonia is the goal of all purposive action. And he says that, when we think of our pursuits and our actions, we always have a goal. Yeah, there's always a purpose.
We're aiming towards the good.
Exactly.
A lot of time
so the good is the ultimate object of our actions. We can have indirect goals, such as, for instance, I'm exercising because I want health. But he would say you want health because health leads you to the good life.
Yeah.
Without health, you cannot have the good life. So at the end of the day, even if it may seem to you that you exercise in order to look better or to be more healthy, ultimately what you want is the good life. So he says that all action aims at the good life. And he says that basically everyone agrees on this. Maybe some Enlightenment thinkers would disagree because they would say that the goodness is not the, let's say, end all and be all of ethics.
Yep.
But let's focus on his idea of goodness, because his idea of goodness is not the utilitarian idea of goodness.
No, it's not. But I find this really interesting because this is, I think, one of the reasons why I feel myself just kind of rejecting Enlightenment ethics, because Aristotle's teleology is within the human. It's a self-contained goal. It's like, okay, you want to be a good person who flourishes within the world and has all of the good things in life. Yeah, who doesn't want that? Everyone wants that. Definitionally, you would think, right?
Yeah.
But to Enlightenment ethics, it creates a goal outside of the human. And that, I think, the goal is social justice. The goal is the destruction of capitalism. The goal is, and it's like, hang on a second, these aren't really ethical things then, actually. We're talking about a kind of objective state of affairs in the universe, which actually isn't what we're supposed to be talking about. And this taking the locus of the point of the ethics outside of the person actually seems to be missing the point of ethics entirely, as far as I can tell. And like I said, I'm no expert or anything, but I'm becoming really, really sour on Enlightenment ethics. And it seems that Aristotle has the overall sort of line of travel, the direction of travel, correct.
I think what is really refreshing is that there is no attempt to talk down on you. Because like, okay, yeah, morality is something that is also beneficial for you. And that's also in Plato, ironically, because many people think that Plato is the ultimate altruist or not. He isn't. He ultimately says that in the Republic, the whole Republic is structured in such a way that says that being just is beneficial for you.
Yeah, but the way that Plato accomplishes this is just awful. And it won't work because he takes the normative purpose of the Republic to be the Republic itself and the structure of it, rather than the individual action of each person. And Aristotle totally has it right on this. Plato is totally wrong on this.
I think that in the politics especially, Aristotle is way closer to a better society than Plato is in the Republic.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. So all action aims at the good. All action aims at eudaimonia, which is conventionally translated as happiness.
But it doesn't really mean happiness, does it?
That's a bit contested. Why? Because it doesn't mean happiness in the modern sense. And Aristotle is quite prescient. He talks about it. And actually this talks about continuity between some cultural characteristics. He says people agree that happiness is the goal, but they completely disagree with respect to what happiness is. Their conceptions of happiness are very different. So the vulgar, he would say, have a very different conception of the good life than from the wise. The wise people know what true happiness is. The vulgar don't. I know you may not like the phrasing, what true happiness is.
No. I think it's totally fair. It kind of leans into Mill's discussion of objective interests. It kind of presages that by a few thousand years. But this I think is valid because he is right. I mean, he talks about the Solon's view on happiness when he speaks to King of Lydia,
Croesus,
and judge no man happy until he's dead. But Aristotle's like, well, we can't, we can't. It's kind of ridiculous for us to point at a man and say he's not happy because he's not dead.
Yeah.
Is he meant to be happy when he's dead?
Yes.
And so he goes through this whole discussion about it, and eventually he just comes to the sort of like, look, it's okay for us to describe someone as generally being happy. It's okay for that. And again, it's just very reasonable, very grounded. Because he doesn't allow himself to be drawn into these kind of logical absurdities, which he otherwise would. But the thing is, there is a strength to the argument. Well, you can't really judge a person's life until it's over, because tomorrow they might meet with terrible disaster, and so there is something to it.
Yeah.
But Aristotle just sagaciously just goes, okay, that's fine. We can talk about a man as he really is, as well as making a judgment of his entire life, and just carries on. It's very smooth, actually.
So the purpose of the Nicomachean Ethics, which is, in a sense, his major ethical treatise, the other one is the Eudemian Ethics. The purpose of this is the following: to create good people.
Yes.
And he says, when you want to hit a target, it's better to know what you're aiming at. And that is why we need to form a good conception of the good life, because unless we have a good conception of the good life, we're unlike to hit the target. The chances of becoming happy without knowing what true happiness consists in, or what truly leads to happiness, are very low.
One thing I think I would modify your characterization there. It's not just about creating good people, or happy people, sorry, because there's a kind of wisdom in the technique that he adopts that forces the individual to be judgmental, prudent, and virtuous. And so it's not even that Aristotle is like, look, if you just achieve this goal, you'll be happy and you'll be a good person. There's none of that. But, like a modern philosopher would try and say, look, these are the things that are sufficient for you to become a good person, and that's all you need to do. So no matter how you came to that, you would be sufficient. Yeah. And Aristotle's like, no, that's not how this works. You have to be a man of a certain kind of character with certain decision-making abilities and certain virtues in order to be, in the long term, over a number of years, be considered to be a good and happy person. And so he's not, again, it's not the dead hand that lays on things. It's actually a very vital, alive, it's self-generative. You've got to look around at the world and now question yourself, question the decisions you've made, and could I make a better one? And there's no other judge but you. You are the judge in all of this. Aristotle isn't sat there, like looking over your shoulder, pointing the finger and saying, oh, that's not according to this thing I wrote down 5,000 years ago. He's very present, very, very alive. And he's saying, no, you've just got to make a decision, try and make a good one. It's honestly, it's a total breath of fresh air.
Yeah. No, I agree with this point. Yeah, because he doesn't agree with outsourcing judgment.
No, and it's like I can't emphasize it enough that this is just so totally different to modern ethics.
Yes,
it's so totally different, and it's ennobling. It makes you the person who's in command of your life.
Another difference, which I don't know if it how fits with what you said. Another difference with modern ethics is that he doesn't frame it necessarily as ethics, because he says the science that studies the good life is politics. That's really interesting in the very beginning of book 1 of the Nicomachean Ethics, because for him, there is no distinction between studying ethical problems and just giving answers to ethical questions and actually acting.
Yes.
It's all about, as you said right now, 2 seconds ago, that how this is going to inform your decision making. All this is not just a cold theoretical pursuit. It's a theoretical pursuit to one extent that is translated into a practical pursuit necessarily, essentially. There's an essential connection between the theoretical and the practical in Aristotle.
And he's expecting you to have results as well. He's expecting you to do something, encounter a consequence of that, and then make another decision later on based on whatever circumstance you happen to be in.
Yes.
And so this is what I mean, where it's like it felt very fuzzy and difficult to grasp at first, because you're just like, well, what am I supposed to? I need the root point that I'm just Right, and then, linking all these chains together. But Aristotle's like, no. This is a long game.
Exactly,
And,
yes.
And you're in it forever.
There's no easy way into it.
Exactly. But you will be amazed at the quality of your person when you really get on the path.
I find this a brilliant bridge to the next point that Aristotle makes, because he says studying the good life is the province of politics. So he asks, who are the students of political science? And he says something that is very, very, very closely linked with what you said. He says basically that young people shouldn't be studying politics.
They don't have the life experience.
They don't have the life experience. So what he said is, you could be saying is that people who don't have life experience, they want to find 2 or 3 abstractions to get into a topic.
Yeah.
Whereas, as you said, it is a bit more chaotic and requires a bit more effort on our part. It is not just, you learn 2 or 3 rules and then you calculate everything. Life requires experience. Experience requires time. Young people haven't had the time to, as Aristotle says, become more temperate. And they are dragged by their emotions. And that is why when we have, you could say, classes of really young people talking about politics and they're being asked what they believe and all that, most of it is completely sentimental.
Yeah.
And hence the social justice.
But also,
types.
It's completely theoretical. What do you believe? You don't know. You don't know. What all you can say is, what have you been programmed with?
Yes.
What theories have you been exposed to? Because you've got no experience in the world. Like when you've got some 21-year-old say, "Oh, I've done a degree in politics." So, so what does that mean? You don't know anything.
Yeah.
Still. But this is one of the key parts to Aristotle that I think is really important. That time is a component of knowledge to Aristotle.
Yes.
It's the entire thing. This makes it totally different to the theoretical learning. It comes very much back to sort of Oakeshott on this, where it's just like, no, time is a component of wisdom, and if you haven't got much time, you can't get time any quicker than anyone else either.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing you can do to speed up this process. You just have to be patient. And so now you've got an entirely different kind of frame to the way the world works. Suddenly it's like, okay, things are outside of my control and I can't do anything to change the process. All I can do is go one step at a time through it. And so it changes the way that, again, Enlightenment philosophy is very much, if you can get it on the first understanding, then you've got it forever and it doesn't change. But that's just not how the world works.
Yes.
Aristotle's clearly a real man in the real world.
And Aristotle is operating in a more organic,
Totally.
with a more organic mindset. He sees almost biological, you could say. He's credited with founding biology by some people. And he also sees this, that, growth is painful and takes time. There's no easy way to grow.
No shortcut.
Exactly. There's no shortcut. And also learning and thinking and, becoming a better person, it takes time. It's not just an issue of, performing 1 or 2 good actions. That is why he's focusing on character and the importance of time in the formation of character. Because it requires time to form a good character. It's not just an issue of acting well in 1 or 2 cases. It's an issue of habituating ourselves in all sorts of contexts into, let's say, becoming a good person.
And it's not even just doing the things that he would have done. You've got to do them for the right reasons, towards the right ends. He's got a whole schematic for the kind of person who does the right thing for the wrong end and things like this. But it's what I find most interesting about Aristotle, right, is that it feels mature. That's the difference, because everything about the Enlightenment feels very immature.
Yeah.
It's like a teenager being like, no, I don't want to have to. I want things now. I want to have a set of instructions that tell me how to be a good person without having to have been the good person over a long period of time. I want instant gratification now. And Aristotle just feels like your dad just saying, no, that's just not how this works. You've got a lot of time ahead of you. You need to slow down, calm down, and make clear-headed decisions. And so Aristotle feels legitimate, actually, whereas a lot of modern philosophy to me feels illegitimate.
To watch the full video, please become a premium member at lotuseaters.com.